of the worst calls at the end of a football game I can remember.
Players, fans up in arms. Who are these replacement referees? Find out what we learned today. Real money. Are you losing tens of thousands of dollars? Is the bank telling you what your home is really worth? How to get that money back.
That's a lot better.
And look, no hands? Has the Jetsons car finally arrived? An announcement today that we will soon be sharing the road with cars that drive themselves.
Go ahead.
From ABC News headquarters, this is ABC World News with Diane Sawyer.
Good evening. Tonight we begin with the clock ticking and a candidate looking for a big move. 42 days to go until your voice, your vote. And the new polls are tough for Republican Governor Mitt Romney. They show him in a slide into absolutely critical battleground states, Ohio and Florida. So what is happening and how will he turn it around? ABC's David Muir is with the Romney campaign tonight in Ohio. David.
Diane, good evening to you. As you know, no Republican has won the White House without Ohio. And in fact, those polls today are a bit of a reality check for the Romney campaign. As for that convention bounce President Obama received, well, it certainly was on Mitt Romney's mind today.
Before arriving in Ohio, Mitt Romney on stage with the former president, speaking at a forum for Bill Clinton's global initiative.
Governor, I thank you for being here. The podium is yours.
A warm welcome from Clinton and a wry response from Romney.
If there's one thing we've learned in this election season, by the way, it is that a few words from Bill Clinton can do a man a lot of good. All I got to do now is wait a couple of days for that bounce to happen. So,
in reality, Romney can't afford to wait, which is why he's in Ohio tonight, side by side with his running mate for the first time in more than a month.
OH!
No longer are they simply making a case against the president's record, they're now making the case for themselves, repeatedly using the word choice.
We are going to give you, our fellow citizens, a clear choice.
This is an election which is a dramatic choice for the American people.
Fellow Republicans have argued they need more specifics from their own ticket, but today something from Romney about the president we haven't heard before. Romney has long argued the president raised taxes on Americans in his first term, but today he appeared to argue the president had not done so.
His idea now, he's got one new idea. I admit this, he has one thing he did not do in his first 4 years. He's said he's going to do in the next 4 years, which is to raise taxes.
Tonight, the campaign would not say Romney made a mistake standing there, instead standing by its argument before that the president has raised taxes. Look at the electoral map with the current ABC News projections. If President Obama wins Ohio, the path for Romney is challenging. For example, he'd have to pick up Virginia, Wisconsin, Florida, Iowa, New Hampshire, and he would still not have the 270 electoral votes he needs. He would then have to add, say, Colorado, just to get there. Tonight, the campaign aware that these new poll numbers just now reflecting Romney's rough week last week. That secret tape, words about the 47%. The Obama team up in 8 states with this tonight.
Mitt Romney dismissed 47% of Americans for not pulling their weight. He attacked millions of hardworking people making 25, 35, 45.
Now, on that issue of taxes, what the governor said here today, talking about those taxes, the president did not raise income tax rates in his first term, though has proposed raising taxes on families earning $250,000 or more. And Diane, tonight, this campaign looking for a game change. As you know, that all-important debate a week from tomorrow. They acknowledged to me that Mr. Romney was practicing over the weekend and has research sessions this week.
A lot of pressure on that debate. Thank you, David. And what about the man who will face the governor in that debate, the president? He was making a case today, but before a world audience of allies and adversaries at the United Nations. He gave a passionate tribute to the U.S. ambassador killed in Libya and called on the room to make a united stand against extremism. Here's ABC's Jake Tapper.
President Obama made the focus of his United Nations address about a man who wasn't there.
I would like to begin today by telling you about an American named Chris Stevens.
With a tribute to the U.S. ambassador to Libya, who was attacked and killed in the dead of night in Benghazi 2 weeks ago today. He extolled the humanity and hope Stevens stood for.
We are serious about these ideas. Today we must reaffirm that our future will be determined by people like Chris Stevens and not by his killers.
But in many ways, the president's speech today seemed targeted at his domestic audience. Accused by Republicans of glibly downplaying the unrest in the Muslim world, the president demanded an end to the violence.
There is no speech that justifies mindless violence. There are no words that excused the killing of innocents.
And while only days ago the White House was asking YouTube to review whether that anti-Muslim film violated the terms of use, today the president offered a full-throated defense of freedom of speech.
Like me, the majority of Americans are Christian, and yet we do not ban blasphemy against our most sacred beliefs.
That was followed by a call to stop those who fan the flames against the West and its allies.
It is time to marginalize those who use hatred of America or the West or Israel as the central organizing principle of politics.
A smaller part of today's speech was Iran's nuclear program, a continued source of frustration and tension. Despite efforts at both outreach and tough sanctions, that country has more than doubled its production rate of enriched uranium since Obama took office.
The United States will do what we must to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
At last year's UN meeting, President Obama met separately with more than a dozen world leaders, but this year he had no such meetings scheduled, prompting criticism that he's more focused this year on campaigning than governing. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton instead met with almost 20 world leaders in his place. Diane?
Thank you so much. From the White House, Jake Tapper tonight. And now we move on to football and the split-second call that had everyone up in arms today. The professional football referees are locked out in a contract battle with the NFL, and their replacements have been called in from some pretty amateur venues. Last night, let's just say, was not pretty. Here's ABC's Dan Harris.
There are 8 seconds on the clock. The Seattle Seahawks are losing to the Green Bay Packers, and the Seattle quarterback throws a Hail Mary.
Fought for by Tate with Jennings. Simultaneous. Who has it? Who they give it to? Touchdown!
Look at what the 2 replacement referees do. One of them rules it a touchdown, while the other signals something entirely different.
To me, it feels like a Jennings interception.
Moments later, though.
After further ado, the call on the field stands. Touchdown.
That sets off an instant firestorm.
This is comical to me, really. Mike, I tell you, that's two of the worst calls at the end of a football game I can remember.
The announcers complain, so does the Packers coach.
I've never seen anything like that in all my years in football.
And quarterback.
It's awful. That's all I'm saying about it.
And then online, other Packers players post the NFL commissioner's phone number and launch expletive-filled rants. Today, President Obama himself weighing in, saying the call was terrible. A rare point of agreement with Republican vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan, himself a Packers fan.
Give me a break. It is time to get the real refs.
The real refs have been locked out since June as part of a labor dispute. All season, the replacement refs the league brought in have been the source of enormous frustration. So who are they? According to ESPN, the man who called last night's touchdown is a local executive for Bank of America who has only officiated high school and junior college football games. Today we also learned that another replacement ref, not involved in last night's game, had been fired from something called the Lingerie Football League for incompetence. If there's any good to come out of this, aside for Seattle fans...
Oh my God, it was amazing. It's the best Seahawks game I've ever seen.
It's that this uproar may help end the lockout. Tonight, the two sides are reportedly back at the table. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
And now I want to bring in Michael Wilbon of our friends at ESPN, co-host of Pardon the Interruption. So, Michael, let me try to get you to say what you think, because so far, all you've said is this was a fraud, bogus, and incompetent. So what is the one word you want to use? Pronounce the one word for this.
One word. Shameful. I don't know that they can be embarrassed. Somebody might want to tell the people on Park Avenue they're not actually wearing clothes because they don't seem to care, and ratings keep going up, and the popularity of the league is not threatened. So I'm not sure they care as much as the people who were going crazy Monday night.
But the Players Association says even further that it's endangering the players.
There are issues of safety involved as well as competitive issues. And if you got those two things, you would really look to have a league which is not thinking about the integrity of its game the way it says it does.
So where does this end? How much longer is this going to go on?
I don't see this being a tipping point. I hope I'm being a little bit too cynical, and that this will wind up resolving itself relatively soon. But I could see this going on for weeks, not days.
All right, Michael Wilbon weighing in. Thanks so much, and hello to everybody at PTI.
Thank you, Diane.
And now we move on to a startling new report by the National Transportation Safety Board about 2 close calls in the air at one of the nation's busiest airports, Chicago O'Hare. We've just learned about planes so close, pilots have said they are only alive because of luck and their own fast reflexes. Here's ABC's Alex Perez.
A potentially deadly mid-air collision. ExpressJet Flight 6075 was taking off from Chicago's O'Hare in May 2011 when panic suddenly filled the cockpit. SkyWest 6958 was coming in on a, quote, collision course. The ExpressJet pilot was able to react quickly, averting disaster. Newly released interviews reveal the pilot's fear. After nearly being killed, I keyed up the mic and yelled to the tower controller, "What the expletive was that?" he said. Just 3 months later, another close call at O'Hare, same situation, same runways.
As a result of those close calls here at O'Hare, the FAA has taken corrective action. There's a new virtual intersection warning, and the controllers responsible for those 2 runways now sit right next to each other to eliminate confusion.
There were 7 serious near collisions across the country in 2011. In this case, the credit goes to the pilots.
It took overt pilot action to avoid an error. We got lucky. That's clearly a cause for concern.
The FAA points out 99.99% of airline operations went off without a hitch, though pilots and passengers may wonder if that's good enough. Alex Perez, ABC News, Chicago.
And now to real money and the housing market. There are some positive signs the market is turning around, but here is the latest number tonight on how much the bubble burst. The average American home lost more than $40,000 in value. And right now, more than 2 million Americans have their homes up for sale. So how do you make sure the bank appraisal of your home gets you the most money? ABC's Sharon Alfonsi is on the Real Money Beat tonight.
Jessica Doerr's whole family lived in this New Jersey community. Then the whole family decided to move.
We all put our houses on the market at the same time. They already sold, they're gone.
But Jessica and her husband Carl are stuck in Jersey. They bought the house for $325,000 6 years ago. Today, they're asking $225,000, a $100,000 loss.
$100,000 is real money.
What's worse, the house was just appraised at $190,000, $35,000 less than what they're asking. That gap could be a huge problem if they ever do get an offer.
When a bank gets a low appraisal, they often won't do the loan at all because they feel as though it's overvalued the house and they feel at risk. And so you can implore with the bank that they have a second look, but the fact of the matter is it's rarely turned around.
But could we turn it around? We brought in one of the country's top appraisal experts for the inside scoop. She let us in on the 3 secret ways appraisers are sizing up your home. First, the first sight.
We're walking up to this house, and we need like a hatchet, right?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't bring my machete.
This is a no-no. Appraisers can hack off thousands of dollars from your home's value just for having an unkept yard.
Whoa.
And inside, the first sight matters too. A clean, clutter-free house can appraise 10% higher than the exact same messy house. Second tip, small subliminals. She says you don't have to redo the entire kitchen. Just adding a new faucet can be considered an update, and it adds value.
It makes it look a little jazzier, and sex sells.
And finally, out with the old and in with the new. Downstairs, Alice says an old TV can make a whole room look dated. So, we got started. Moving out that busy, oversized furniture, slip covering what's left, and cutting down the hedges. There's a lot to do, and the next appraiser's coming in just 2 days. So I left the doors with a list.
It is 7 pages long. Okay. You have 48 hours. Good luck.
The doors spent $1,600 on improvements, but wouldn't pay off. The appraiser was here, and we were about to find out. Meet Tom McAjay, an appraiser for 26 years. He says it's part art, part science.
Jessica, what kind of improvements have you made to your home in the recent past?
A lot.
Remember that out-of-control office? Now, all business. The cluttered kitchen, cleaned up. And the old faucet, updated. And the stuffed and dated living room, now spare. The old set replaced with state-of-the-art. But could those little changes really pay off? Remember, the last appraisal came in at $190,000. And new appraisal?
Oh, good.
That's a lot better.
$214,000. A $24,000 increase.
And the Doors were such good sports. They did everything on that 7-page to-do list, and it paid off. Remember, we spent $1,600, so for every dollar they spent, they got $15 back on that appraisal, so it's a good lesson. That first appraisal, not for fun and work. The important thing here, don't panic.
And what about prospective buyers?
Well, the house is still for sale, but they have people coming over and then, importantly, coming back for a second look.
All right. Well, good luck to them, and thanks so much, Sharon. There was a headline rocketing around the world today about a shortage of bacon. The National Pig Association of Britain said the record-breaking droughts have made feed so expensive they predict 10% fewer pigs and a lot less bacon by late next year. Bacon lovers were tweeting all day outrage over what they're calling apocalypse, saying it's time to stock up. Some vowing to take take it all into their own hands and breed the pigs themselves. But we spoke to some experts right here in the U.S. who say they can keep the bacon coming, they think, right here at home, though the price may rise. So if you've ever wondered what JAWS does in its downtime, researchers tagged 2 great whites with GPS devices off the coast of Cape Cod, and here is what they found. In the course of 10 days, the first one, named Jeannie, swam all the way to Nantucket, zipping around there, while the other, Mary Lee, went further afield, past Nantucket, Long Island, the Jersey Shore, now swimming all the way down to the waters off the coast of Ocean City, Maryland. A lot of terrain covered there by the more adventurous great white. And here's an answer to the question, is there no one who would rather be in the moment than answer their phone these days? Take a look at this. A tightrope walker in France, 1,000 feet up, navigating a treacherous 65-foot gap between 2 cliffs. His phone rings. He answers it. He chats for 20 minutes. And we wondered how he got such good service up there when we can't even get it right down here on the ground. And finally tonight, a new law signed today ushered us into a wild future. California became the latest state to allow cars that drive themselves out on the highway. We'll all start to notice them in just a few years, but our senior national correspondent Jim Avila tried one out.
You've seen this, cars that slam on the brakes before you hit a pole. But here's something you have never seen. The car of the future, making the driver totally unnecessary.
No ads.
Google's working on one, and the federal government is sponsoring a field test in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with cars that automatically swerve past potential accidents and alert you to oncoming hazards. And now this, at General Motors Test Track, I sat in the driver's seat as this Cadillac at high speeds stayed in its lane. At 60 miles an hour, it stopped on its own, even when a car driving 30 miles slower suddenly pulled in front of us.
We can foresee the day when vehicles will be able to completely avoid collisions.
It's been a car maker's dream since George Jetson sat in his automated flying car.
The Jetsons could happen. The vehicle can take complete control and take you to your destination in comfort and safety and security.
This prototype, called Super Cruise, uses radar, cameras, and GPS to drive itself. Hands are off the steering wheel, feet are off the pedals. I can look away. Don't do this at home. At any time, the driver can take back control. But on the highway, when driving is the least fun and humans are easily distracted, Super Cruise can safely navigate the hazards.
The system does not get distracted. It doesn't fall asleep.
And is expected to be in the first GM cars as early as 2015. Jim Avila, ABC News, Detroit.
And if you're wondering about the price, it will be about an extra $2,000 on the price of any car. Thank you for watching. We're always here at abcnews.com. Nightline later, and we'll see you again tomorrow night. Good night. Tonight on World News, trouble in the air. We learn of another American Airlines flight with a row of loose passenger seats. American Airlines says late today they think they know what happened, but why? Should you book a flight? Shootout this morning. An American agent killed in a firefight near the Mexican border. A massive manhunt underway from helicopters to horseback. Fat chance. The people paid thousands of dollars by doctors to eat one fast food meal every day for months. So what happened to their bodies? And how much weight did they gain? And Lucky Charm, why the hopes and dreams of everyone in this superstitious city rest on this guy. Why does he have to lose for them to win?
From ABC News, World Headquarters, this is ABC World News with Diane Sawyer.
Good evening. As we come on the air, we learned it has happened again. A third American Airlines flight forced to land after a row of seats came unbolted. Half of their fleet of 757s were grounded for inspection, most of them now back in service. But even so, there have been a flurry of cancellations and delays. So what do you do if you're booking a flight? And what is American Airlines saying tonight about the clues they found? ABC senior national correspondent Jim Avila tells us.
Boston's Logan Field, one of American's Boeing 757s, 47 of which, nearly half the fleet, taken out of service overnight and into today as the troubled airline tries to make sure no more of its coach seats come loose in flight, as they have 3 separate times.
Our seats 14, A, B, and C, I think, are totally disconnected.
Somehow, in the installation process of our seats, we introduced a failure. We're not sure if it's a mechanical failure or a human failure.
American saying today it has identified what caused 3 of its flights to be aborted in mid-flight because seats came loose. In one case, flipping passengers on their backs. The seats came in rows of 3, and the row is held to the floor with what's called a saddle clamp. It's that clamp that was improperly installed on the planes when the seats disengaged.
On the safety side of this particular situation, American's doing all that it can do right now to ensure that those seats are being looked at and making sure that they're installed as correctly as they're supposed to be.
American says the investigation is still underway, but so far the airline cannot give a solid answer as to why now. These seats have been in use for up to 20 years and never come loose before. Aviation sources say the last eyes and hands on the saddle clamps in all 3 loose seat incidents belong to company mechanics, leading to suspicions of possible sabotage. But safety experts tell ABC News that would be a first.
To deliberately think that somebody would do something to a seat track assembly to cause it to come loose during flight is just something that's not thought of in this industry.
The mechanics union, which lost jobs to outsourcing, says it has had nothing to do with the loose seats and points to the new private maintenance. Just the latest series of labor troubles for American Airlines, which has suffered more than 2,200 delays and 75 cancellations, on time only 57% of the time over the last 3 days. More than double the delays for United and Delta, which are both punctual more than 80% of the time.
It's going to take American, though, some time to rebuild trust in terms of the reliability of the schedule.
American Airlines says on the record it has ruled out sabotage. They believe the installation mistakes are the result of human or mechanical errors. One interesting note behind American's decision to inspect all of its planes with this type of seats, one of the seat rows that was loose for 6 days worth of flights without being noticed. So, should you take an American Airlines flight?
That's the question.
Yes, the experts are telling us that if you can be flexible and don't have to be someplace on time, it's okay. That it's safe, just not very dependable as far as on time.
All right, back on the story tonight. Thanks, Jim. And we turn now to a manhunt underway at this hour in Arizona. Helicopters and horses in pursuit along a dangerous stretch of the Mexican border. This morning, a shootout left one American border agent dead, another wounded. The agent who died, 30-year-old Nicholas Ivey. And the question tonight, was this a Mexican drug cartel in action? ABC's Cecilia Vega joins us now from the border there. Cecilia.
Diane, good evening to you. Let me just show you how close we're talking. That mountain right over there, right over my shoulder, that's the other side of the border. That is Mexico. Now, this area has earned the nickname as Cocaine Alley by drug smugglers. It's considered to be one of the most popular places for illegal entries all along the border. But today, for the agents who work right here at this station, this is a place of mourning. It is remote, dangerous, and deadly. And it was here early this morning on this dusty stretch of land where Arizona meets Mexico that 3 Border Patrol agents were fired on.
One made it out safely, another was shot twice and is expected to recover. But the third agent, 30-year-old Nicholas Ivy, was shot dead.
We suspect that this is probably some type of narcotics trafficking event that these agents encountered, but at this time that would be speculative.
It was just before 2 in the morning when something triggered one of the many motion sensors along the border.
This is how this advanced technology works. Sensors buried below ground automatically alert the nearest Border Patrol office. You can see there's one right over there when they detect a certain weight. Whether it's a smuggler, whether it's an illegal crosser, or even a large animal, Border Patrol agents have to come out here to investigate.
The 3 agents headed to a spot just 3 miles north of the border. As they headed up a desert hill, someone fired right at them in what's being described as an ambush. The agents work in the very Naco, Arizona station named just 2 weeks ago for Brian Terry, the last Border Patrol agent fatally shot on duty. His 2010 death from a firearm sold through the notorious Fast and Furious operation ignited a firestorm. It's unknown if the weapon that killed Ivy has any link to that now famous controversy. What is clear here is just how dangerous life can be.
Agent Ivy died in the line of duty, protecting our nation against those who threaten our way of life. His death only strengthens our resolve.
And this terrain out here is so rough that agents are still processing the crime scene. They say it could take a couple of days. Now you can see the flags here at this station lowered today. You just heard the agents say what agents out here have been saying all day. This has given them the resolve to make this a safer place. Diane?
All right, Cecilia Vega, thanks so much tonight. And now we turn to countdown to the first big debate. 24 hours until the candidates face each other on the stage. President Barack Obama and Governor Mitt Romney, both in marathon training sessions. Their wives and running mates carrying the banner today with some mixed results. 35 days to go till your voice, your vote. Our political team is back. ABC's Jake Tapper and ABC's David Muir inside the debate hall right now, covering it all. Jake, starts us off.
Good evening, Diane. Well, the two candidates largely kept to themselves today, leaving the hard work of campaigning to their surrogates who hit the campaign trail in a fever pitch, not always staying on message. In battleground state North Carolina, the vice president tried to assail the Republican ticket, but he did so in a way that brought fire upon himself.
How they can justify raising taxes in the middle class has been buried the last 4 years.
Paul Ryan pounced.
Vice President Biden just today said that the middle class over the last 4 years has been, quote, buried. We agree. That means we need to stop digging by electing Mitt Romney the next president of the United States.
The vice president later said that the middle class pain was due to Bush policies that Romney and Ryan want to repeat, but the debate symbolized a problem for the president. Even though the economic collapse happened under Bush, 4 years later, families are still hurting, and many in the middle class are barely treading water. All guaranteed fodder for tomorrow night's debate in Denver. The First Lady is making her way there, but first stopped in Ohio.
Are you fired up?
Where early voting began today.
Are we going to just sit back and watch everything that we worked for and fought for to just slip away?
Her Republican counterpart, Ann Romney, got to Colorado before her.
We have a debate coming up, and we are excited about that. We're focused.
Truth is, family members' nerves are on edge, as Josh Romney confided to Diane Sawyer in August.
I hate the debates. He's sitting there trying to be cool and keep a smile on his face, but inside you just want to fall down.
4 years ago, Michelle Obama would get so nervous during the debate she didn't even like to watch them, but she'll be there tomorrow in the debate hall where we turn to David Muir, my colleague with the Romney campaign. David?
Hey, Jake, good evening from Denver. I'll see you right here in the debate hall tomorrow night. But tonight, here's some key decisions made just moments ago. A coin toss between both campaigns determining that President Obama will be introduced first. He'll take the first question. Governor Romney winning the coin toss on the closing argument. He'll give the final argument on the debate stage. And there was even a toss about which of the wives will be introduced first. It'll be Mrs. Romney, followed by the First Lady. But I wanted to show the viewers at home tonight the debate stage. And you can see up there both podiums. This first debate will have both candidates actually standing with one another, which is why the Romney team has been concentrating on not only his answers, but his body language. Where was he standing earlier today? Take a look at these pictures that came in at Chipotle here in Denver, getting in line with Senator Rob Portman, who of course has been playing President Obama in the mock debates, taking pictures with some of the workers there. And we asked some of the Romney supporters here in Denver if they were coaching him in that mock debate room, what they would say.
If you were inside that debate prep room, what would you tell the governor?
Be honest. Be straightforward.
If you're inside that debate room, what do you tell him?
I say show who you are, represent who you are. There's been some bad press against him because of his comment about 47 or 49% that he doesn't care about. Well, he does care about everyone. I would say use all the facts that you can and speak from the heart.
She said show some heart on this stage. I did talk with a campaign advisor today who said there's no question he believes that 47% will come up on the debate stage. They've been training the governor, Diane, on that, whether the question comes from the moderator or in an answer from President Obama. And one other thing I heard today from a senior advisor is that Governor Romney, they say, does not have to win a charm offensive on that debate stage. He simply has to prove that he can relate to average American problems. A lot at stake here tomorrow night, Diane.
Love the citizen debate coaches there, David. And as everybody knows, you and Jake and George Stephanopoulos, the entire political team, will be covering it all tomorrow night. Please join us Wednesday night, one-on-one, the candidates debate, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. And now, the peanut butter recall. We have been reading all your posts and emails to us about peanut butter and which brands are linked to at least 30 cases of salmonella poisoning. So many of you have been asking us as we go through our kitchen cabinets, exactly what should we do? And ABC's Steve Osunsami now has a kind of user's guide for families.
Today, government officials trying to contain the salmonella outbreak told us it doesn't look good, and to expect more reported cases linked to jars of peanut butter sold at grocery stores across the country. So far, 30 people sick, most of them children, across 19